I'm Jeffrey Clark. I'm a clinical social worker in Spokane, Washington. I've been in practice about 5 years total. I graduated from Eastern Washington University in 2019 with my master's in social work. Really been focused my entire career on co-occurring disorders, so mental health, substance addiction, and really working within that realm. I found a lot of joy spending time and holding space for those people. As the years have kind of gone on, I've kind of moved into a different space of working with more teenagers and more adolescents, and that's actually kind of where I found my specialty. It's always hard to find the right population, and so, that was just how it kind of came, as I ended up working inpatient for adolescent teenage girls and fell in love just working within that population and just doing the same work co-occurring, really trauma focused. It's kind of, my practice overall. I see on average of about 20 to 22 clients a week. Outside of that, me personally, I was in the Army for 8 years. I was not a therapist back then. And so I am a combat veteran. I served in Afghanistan. And so for me, I take a lot of my own practice really personally, because mental health for me is a personal experience as well. And so I feel like as I do my work with clients, I know what it feels like to struggle to find a therapist. I know what it feels like to just get into that seat and do the work. And so I'm really just passionate about providing that service to the community that I get to work with. So I partnered with Mindful really on a happen chance. So I was happy with where I was at, but I really wanted to kind of put my shingle back out there again. So I had been in private practice before in the Spokane community in 2019 and 20. Obviously, COVID became the party. And so I ended up closing my practice due to catching COVID. And so I was traveling in Seattle. I was actually going to a Mariners game with my family, and we were staying in a hotel in Everett. And I ended up seeing something online about Mindful, and liked the website. Kind of didn't even tell my wife that I was inquiring about it, and everything looked good. I kind of saw some things, looked at the providers. I saw a couple names that I knew. Obviously, I'd been in the field by then at about 4 years. So I kind of knew some people within the areas of Seattle and, maybe a few people in Spokane. And so I reached out. That's kind of how it started. Just put my name in the hopper, I guess. I think anxiety overall is always a little bit higher than usual. I would say getting into Mindful, going through that journey of onboarding, there was a ton of things. I mean, there's a laundry list of anxieties that I had, both professionally and personally. And so, and of course, my family even had some concerns as well, given, COVID was the big thing when I first tried this. And so, but yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of anxieties. I mean, the way that it kind of worked out was the first couple interview kind of meetings, and it was with Maddie and Xavier. Those are the two names, and I love them to death and I adore them. I still talk to Xavier as much as I can. We talk about football all the time, so it's really cool that we have a good connection there. I really was just able to talk about it. I was concerned about anything from taxes to caseloads. It was just really a lot of anxiety. And so between talking to them, and then, when I did get onboarded, my account manager at the time, did a great job. Every week I was meeting with her. We would meet for 30 minutes. I think a few times we met for an hour, really just trying to see what I was comfortable with. And then we'd actually go through different things. So she would show me, this is how you go into the EHR system, electronic health records. And then also, hey, this is how you build this. So a little bit of the nuanced things that you got to learn, in your journey, which was a huge difference from the last time I did, private practice, where it was just kind of like, here, Jeffrey, here's your office, figure it out. Have a great day. You're smart enough. It's like, no, it's not how this works. I need somebody to walk me through how to bill a 90837 code and what, how do you do an interactive complexity code type things, and onboarding with insurance. I mean, there's so many things, again, anxiety. And so the last piece of really kind of to answer the question of where did it all kind of come together? And I would say it probably took, I'd say 6 to 7 months, actually hit a year in a couple weeks of being with Mindful. It was going to the building block seminars with Derek, and also just the community events with meeting with people. That's kind of where everything started getting reduced. My anxiety levels were becoming less and less noticeable when it came to my business and having my practice. for me personally, it was kind of a weird evolution of going through them because I wasn't able to go through the entire series. So I had a little bit of anxiety. So there's another piece of that. But like we have these dates set up of, when you're going to go into these sessions. And so I went to the first one and actually missed the rest of them. So when I was being onboarded, I was actually refereeing high school football. So I didn't have time to go to these sessions. And I'm like, oh man, I missed after the first one. But luckily, kind of the unknown factor was I could just go back. But the beauty of it is that when I went back into it, it wasn't the same thing. I mean, yes, there was this broad overarching, theme of the conversation, but it wasn't about him talking. He'll kind of present the topic and then like open the floor. It really becomes this collaborative community environment. If I wanted to participate, I could. I know in one of the seminars I spoke directly about, we were talking about billing, and I kind of voiced some, I don't know, it's the difficulty with some of the insurance companies and wanting access to services for my veterans that I am a veteran and like I want to serve veterans, and the insurance companies that serve veterans is notoriously complex and nobody wants to hear that, but that's just the reality that we live in the United States. And so, Derek definitely listened to me, validated my concerns, and then, kind of talked me through how we can, continue to advocate for that population that I wanted to work with. So there was, 30 some people in this session, but he was just speaking to me. And so it was a community type event, but it was also, I felt like just Derek was talking to me at that moment. It was a really impactful moment for me personally, because it's really hard to get your voice heard when you're just the lonely therapist trying to do their job and trying to figure out how to swim in this world. So it was pretty special. Hands down community. I could probably spend an entire hour and bore every person who's going to watch this video about this. Going into private practice is a really intimidating thing. And there's a lot of therapists out there that will say, hey, you don't need a managing company. You don't need, anybody. You can do this all on your own. And that's true. There are clinicians out there that are rock star status that can do that. But then there are other clinicians like myself who actually don't want to do some of the administrative things. I don't want to talk to insurance companies. I want to help clients. I want to be a social worker. I want to be a therapist. Not having the burden that could come from being a therapist without somebody like Mindful to be partnered with is just something I just didn't want to do, right? And so the benefit that I really didn't realize, like I said, the community aspect really didn't come until I started going to the events. The big thing that Mindful does is there's always events kind of churning in the system. You go to the website, there's the calendar of events, and I'm notorious for not looking at it, but thank God they send emails. I try to sign up for every one of them that I can make. I know one of my favorite ones so far, again, I've only been with my partner with Mindful for about a year, but I've been to 3 or 4 events now. But I ended up going to the Seattle Mariners game. Gosh, I don't even remember when that was. I want to say it was June, maybe-ish. I don't even know. But I drove over from Spokane, family in tow. Family went to the baseball game. We had family living in Seattle, and so they did their thing. And then I just hung out actually with Mindful. And so it was one of the most special times that I can say professionally that I've had since I got out of the military. As a veteran, like community is really important to me. Having that, I wouldn't say the brotherhood per se, but the connection, the community, the aspects that we're doing something really difficult, right? And we need each other to do it. And so that's really like how I feel connected with like Xavier and a few of the other people, and like the laundry list of people. But yeah, it was definitely the community aspect. And so I feel pretty lucky to be able to have that opportunity. That's honestly the biggest thing. You can't even put it on anything. It's the one aspect I felt I needed, and I got it. It was definitely not what I thought I was going to get. It's actually way more than I wanted. And that's awesome. Like I like the fact that Mindful encourages their entire community to come together. I really had to spend some time thinking about going back in person. COVID was one thing, but also how I feel, how burnout, and how to raise my young family and be there for my wife. The one thing that really led me to ultimately just go with it is that I love being around humans. There's just something special about somebody coming in to see me and trusting me with their story. I don't have all the answers for them, and I try to make that known right away, but I will definitely sit with them as we try to figure out how to make their world, their system more tolerable. And so Going in person is one of those ways that we can do that. The physical presence aspect. I'm sitting down, I'm kind of in a somewhat of a cozy chair, but I'm actually 6 feet tall, right? And I weigh 225 pounds. So I have a physical presence in a room, right? And so you can't get that on telehealth. And I do believe in telehealth. I do find it to be an effective modality, even for things like I'm an EMDR trained therapist. I do EMDR on telehealth. I do believe that it works. But there is something about humans that there's a connection about being in person, even if it is anxiety, which I believe we all kind of feel coming out of this, I would say coming out of COVID, but at this point, I don't even know. Knock on wood, I don't get it again. But yeah, it's, to kind of speak to the other part, it's just a passion to serve. That kind of sounds like a cliche of a veteran, right? Who served in the military. It's just passion to serve. But I really, really, with every piece of my body and my soul and my heart, I love working with teenagers. They don't do telehealth sometimes, right? It's just the reality, right? There's other computers they can be playing on. There's their phones they could be playing on. But in person, they get to be brave to walk through that door and have a seat. And then, we sit down and we start having a conversation, or maybe we play a card game, or maybe we use my computer to watch YouTube videos or something, because that's totally therapy, by the way. So just so everybody knows, teenagers like to listen to music, let them listen to music. It helps them talk, right? But yeah, it was just the passion to serve the community here in Spokane. I was born and raised here as well. And so this is my home, and I came back to it after the military. And I definitely feel like being in person is answering that call a little bit more than just providing telehealth services. Being excited about the future, I think, to kind of speak to that other part, having the opportunity to go to an office. Boom, there it is. I have colleagues, I have providers that can provide medication management. I can meet new people, create new professional relationships with those medication prescribers. That way I can have a coordination for care. Thus, I'm now impacting my client system